Welcome back to the channel, to Silent Hill Acres. I know I've been wanting to get out a 1-year review on the Kioti tractor here. Just had so many projects. Spring is here and just trying to get a bunch of stuff done, and I've just kind of been putting it on the back burner. But I am here today to give you the, I guess I wouldn't say 1-year review, I'd say about a 14 month review on it, maybe even a little longer than that. But this tractor, I'll have to say, I've been very pleased with the performance that I have gotten from the CK4020 Kioti tractor. This is definitely the size tractor I would say that is suited great for me and our property that we have here. I don't think I would have went any bigger, and so far I haven't had any major issues with it at all. I just been doing the required maintenance. I did the 50-hour maintenance, and I've done the 100-hour maintenance. I believe I have 111.3, 0.4, somewhere right in that ballpark hours on it right now. And so far it's been an awesome machine for me. So I will go over some things. There are very few things that I would say that I would change on it, and they could just be minor things to me, but so far I don't have any issues. So what I'm going to do is go over the positives that I really do like about this tractor, and like again I said, there's a few negatives that I do have, and maybe with Kioti possibly getting a hold of this video or viewing this video, they might take that into consideration. But then again, I'm a nobody. I am a I wouldn't say first-time tractor owner, because I did have one before I got this one, but I'm still learning. It's still a learning experience for me, and I don't want anybody out there to think that I'm some person to take my opinion as serious, or as I tell most people, go out and do your own research, review other people's videos. I know that there's quite a few guys out there now that they're really liking the TYM tractors. And when I bought this one, the TYMs really, they were out there, but they hadn't made as big of a splash as they have since the first of the year. They're both Kioti and TYM. They're both tractors from South Korea. I believe that's the main frame and where they put the motor and all that stuff. But actually, this Kioti tractor was assembled in North Carolina. And so when I ordered my tractor, they just had to bring it across the state, to where I live. But again, this tractor here has been very well, and so I don't have any major problems or any really bad negative things to say about it. Like I said, there's a few quirks here and there, but again, it's just me, and I think everybody has something that would feel like they would be better if it was this way or that way. So anyways, let's get into the review. All right, one of the things that I definitely didn't like about the Kioti tractor was the size of their toolbox, which this is the one I put on it. This is the one it comes with. And as you can see, there's a big difference there. And again, it might just be me, but I like to keep a lot of tools and extra parts with me, the clinch pins, the stuff like that, where if I'm on the other side of the property and a bolt comes loose, or I lose a pin for one of the 3-point attachments, I don't have to come all the way back to the other side of the property and get another one. So I keep a lot of spare pieces in this toolbox here. This isn't probably the permanent toolbox that I will keep on here, because I do want it a little bit shorter. The biggest thing was I wanted it wider. And also what I like about this is it has not only inside the box, but I keep these, like I said, I keep these extra pins in there, because these are usually the ones that will sometimes, you know, if you get a stick or something or whatever, it gets caught up in there and flips it up, and then over the course of vibration of just using your tractor, you know, these could pop out pretty easy. So I like to keep a bunch of these in here, all different sizes, because I got all different kinds of different attachments. Even have a extra top link pin, never know. So the qualms that I had about with this Kioti, and I think this toolbox comes on every Kioti that comes off the assembly line. And again, to me, this is just not big enough, and it also could just be me, but I've heard it from numerous people that this toolbox, you know, it doesn't have much room to keep a whole lot in it. So I just had this one around the shop and figured I'd give it a try. And like I said, at some point once I find the right one that I really want, I'm hoping I can get it maybe about 2 inches shorter, and that way I can take the tools, take extra pieces, and that way, again, if I'm way back on the other section of the property, I don't want to have to come all the way back over here to either get a wrench or a pin or anything like that. You know, that just takes away time for me to actually be doing some work. Another thing that, to me, it's really annoying, but I understand it's a safety feature. But at the same time, when I'm just trying to get work done, you know, and with me, a lot of the times I don't have a substantial amount of time to complete the projects, but I can, you know, put a pretty good dent in it, or, you know, still get quite a bit done. But when I'm hopping on and off the tractor, you know, doing things, the thing that I don't like is the safety feature that they have for when you stop and you want to get off your tractor with it still running. You have to put it in neutral, you have to pull up the park brake, which sometimes, you know, if you don't get it just right, you hop off and then the engine shuts down. So again, that is one of the things that I would say is, actually, I'd probably say that's the biggest thing that I don't care for on the Kioti tractor. And I understand they're trying to be safe with people, and making sure that they're cognitive of that when they get off their tractor, it's not going to go anywhere. But at the same time, I think that should be an owner option. You know, I think, you know, I got 2 blank spots here underneath my steering wheel. Put a button on there, you know, have it where if I want to, don't have to, you know, at least if you want to put the parking brake on, maybe, but to take it out of gear, make sure, you know, and all that, I think it just adds too many extra steps, especially if I'm on flat ground. I know my tractor's not going to go anywhere. And to me, anybody that uses a tractor enough is going to know if you're on a hill like this, you probably ought to put the parking brake on. That's just, to me, that's common sense. But again, I think that that is something that I believe should be an option for the owner to, you know, be responsible for yourself. You know, I think that, you know, some companies go so far to make a piece of equipment where it's for the benefit or safety of the person, but at the same time, it could also be a hindrance. You know, especially when, again, when I'm trying to do work, I'm just trying to get it done, and that's just and it could be a tick for tack, you know, kind of thing that, you know, I just don't like. But again, I think an option would be to put a switch on here, and if I want to leave my tractor, you know, in gear with the park and brake off, I push that button and it disengages your safety feature on your tractor here. Because the hardest thing that I find, especially when I'm using the front loader, whether it be with my bucket, my pallet forks, the stump bucket, that sometimes, you know, you gotta kind of stand up to actually see where, you know, especially pallet fork, or yeah, the pallet forks, you know, seeing where your tips are, make sure you're going to get underneath that pallet or a piece of equipment or whatever it might be. Well, I've had to found myself where when I'm in that time frame, or when I'm in, you know, in that mode of using my pallet forks and I'm trying to see, well, I've found the best way for me to be able to still be able to drive, be able to get high enough to see, is to actually bring myself up, put my knee on this seat like this. That way I'm still putting weight and pressure on this sensor that they have on this seat and still being able to drive. Now, to me, does that look safe? You know, I don't think so. You know, I'm not actually in the seat. I don't have a seat belt on now. I feel that, you know, again, especially if I'm just wanting to use my pallet forks, it would be nice that, you know, I could be in my seat like this. All right, I need to see the tips of my pallet forks there. I push a button, and guess what? I can just stand up real quick, maneuver the pallet fork tips underneath the pallet or whatever I'm lifting up. As soon as I know it's in there, I can easily sit back down and keep on going. You know, I don't have to get up, put my knee in and all that kind of stuff to maintain, like I said, that sensor, that there's some weight on the seat. Just an idea to hopefully maybe Kioti might take that into consideration. Again, I think that it would be a good feature on the tractor for people that either want to have it, you know, especially people that have never driven tractors before, haven't used a tractor enough before. You know, I'm getting into 3 years of owning a tractor, not this particular one, but I think I'm starting to get enough experience and have some knowledge, or as I say, common sense, to know that if you're in a position, and I'm saying, you know, on the ground where it could go this way, this way, this way, or this way, you know, where there's a slope to it, I think common sense is just going to tell you, put your brake on. Also, and I wouldn't say this is really a Kioti problem, but again, this is a reason why I did not get a cab tractor. And believe me, I would love to have a cab tractor. But I think I said in the very first review of this tractor that I got, was I do a lot of work out in my woods. You know, I'm clearing trails. Been really doing a lot of work out in the woods, you know, because I think you saw in some previous videos where I was doing some cleanup after Hurricane Helene came through, and I still have trees down that I need to get to. But saying that, again, the reason why I didn't get a cab, because I was always afraid of, you know, scratching it up or even, you know, breaking one of the windows on the tractor, just because, you know, low hanging limbs and, you know, getting into tight spots, you know, and it can happen in a second that you just don't realize because you're focused on something else and you don't see that limb or whatever. But what really let me know that I made the right choice of not getting a cab tractor is these lights here. This light and the one on the other side, and I just put this back up here for them, or so you can just see. I busted 4 of these things. I believe 3 on this side and 1 on the other side. And they're not that expensive. I get them off of Amazon and, you know, and everything. And I went ahead and bought extras just in case, but I'm just like, you know, why do I keep replacing these? Then I go back out in the woods and do some work, and again, I bust one off. So I just bought replacements if it ever possibly might happen that I decide to sell this. I can always rewire these and put them back. Now, I know some people that have requested when they buy a Coyote is they'll have them put right here on the fender, and there's actually a hole right there. There's just a sticker over it, and you can have this here. And I do believe there's some easy wiring there that, you know, you can just plug right back into it. But again, I just don't find it necessary for me to worry about having these lights up there. You know, if I do need to drive on the road, just, I mean, it's maybe not even 100 yards, 120 yards from this driveway to my access point on the other side of the property. These also work as hazard lights. So I'm not, you know, driving down the road for miles and miles and miles and feel that it would be really necessary to have these hazard lights. That's just me. You can kind of do what you want, but at the same time, I got tired of replacing these things. And usually I wouldn't notice it until I was all done working and I get back to the shop, and, you know, I'm kind of going over my tractor and I notice that, you know, this is all busted up. So again, that's the reason why I didn't get a cab tractor. Would I love one? Yes, indeed I would, especially down here in North Carolina during the summertime. You know, it just gets so blistering hot, and air conditioning would be great. But again, I don't think it would be worth taking the chances of busting you know, the windows out, which is a lot more expensive than just replacing one of these lights. Now let's get into the good things I like about this Coyote tractor. And one of them is the lift capacity that this front loader has. Of course, this is without any attachments on the front, and it's at the pins back here, but the total lifting capacity is right around 1,900 pounds. And I really don't know of a whole lot that would need to lift that much, except maybe, you know, some huge logs. I have some big trees that have fallen, and I know when I go to move them, I'm gonna have to probably cut them, instead of, you know, 6 or 7 foot long, I might have to cut them down to 4 foot long, just so I might be able to lift them, because there's some big trees. But overall, I will say that I haven't had a situation yet where I have not been able to lift what I wanted to. I've lifted pallets full of those cement blocks that we use for our big walkway back here. And then I lifted, I don't know how many buckets of gravel to fill in for where our walkway is. And so those 2 things, and then again, the biggest thing around here that, you know, I'm probably lifting most of the time is just trees. So, because I'm trying to really still clean up, make the property nice, but at the same time, you know, I want to make sure that I do have enough lift in this. That was a reason why I, you know, traded or sold my John Deere 1025R, because I think it only lifted a little over 700 pounds. And So that was kind of something that definitely let me know that I needed to get a bigger tractor, because I knew I wanted to do a lot more stuff on this property, and that tractor was not going to be able to work out for me the most. So again, I'm really happy with the lift capacity that this front loader has done. And I've again, I haven't had any issues with that. It's definitely worked for me. Of course, always make sure you have ballast on the back. If you hadn't seen the video of do you have ballast, kind of check it out, because to me it's a cheap and easy way to put extra ballast on the back of your tractor, but also it has some versatility to use it for other things. So check out that video. I think I said in my initial review, both the rear tires have ballast fluid in it. So between the rear tires and then the ballast that I do put on the back, I probably have between 1,000 and 1,200 pounds on the rear end of my tractor. So I got plenty of counterweight on the back when I do use my front loader, and I'm going to be moving some heavy weight. So that's a key thing that I want to tell people, is I'm very happy with the work that this front loader does. I believe when I did the initial review, and I also did the review on the grapple that I have for my tractor, I talked about the third function buttons. And I don't believe, now this tractor is well over a year old, but at the time, I believe this was only available on your SE models. And what's nice is it's fully integrated, whereas if you buy some tractors that don't have this and you end up adding a third function or a diverter valve or anything like that, well, then you have to replace this handle here. You have to run the wire, to be able to get power to these buttons. And to me, I think it's really nice that Kioti integrated these buttons already here, and makes it simple, easy. You don't have any extra wires, that you have to connect and everything like that. I think I stated in the review that when I bought my tractor, or I guess you want to say ordered my tractor, I went ahead and added the third function to the front. And again, I think it was like $1,200 to add this. But again, when you're get a loan for 0% interest for 7 years, this isn't going to add a whole lot to your monthly payment. I think it was less than, I don't know, $10, $15 a month, something like that. The one thing that I will say, if you do get a third function and you're definitely using it a lot, this part of the third function hose has rubbed on this front grill right here. So just kind of keep an eye on that. I ended up putting like some Gorilla Tape on there just to make sure that there is some type of protection, but looks like I need to put some more. But I'd rather have the Gorilla Tape rub off than rubbing a weak spot into that hose, especially since these are under really high pressure. It could really cause some damage once it's worn through there, and then you're going to have hydraulic fluid all over, and not to mention you're going to have to replace the hose and replace all that hydraulic fluid. So that is one thing I will say, is just kind of keep an eye on your third function hose, especially when you're doing a lot of loader work with especially like my grapple, and well, even using the bucket or anything, it's going to make it tilt back and forward again, because it's going to rub possibly on this grill here. this big heavy duty grill. I would like to get one of those big grill guards for the front of my tractor. Just like I keep saying, I work in the woods, you know, majority of the time using my tractor, and it would be easy, you know, a stick that I don't see, you know, if I'm using the grapple and it's on the bottom of the pile or whatever, but it's sticking this way, well, I go to lift it up and bring it in or go into that pile, you know, it could poke right through that pretty easy. So I would like to get a full grill cover to put on this, just to be able to protect that that front part a lot more. I know this is going to be kind of hard for me to really get a good angle for you to be able to see this, but another reason why I went with the Kioti and is that it has 2 rear remotes here on the back, and I've found that those have been very greatly useful with the all my implements that I put on the back of the tractor here. And so if you're doing, especially like I think you saw when I used the flail mower, you know, how you can change the angle pretty quickly once you put a hydraulic top link in here. And again, that is something that I think if you're going to be doing any type of grading or again, using your flail mower, anything where you feel like you need to change the angle of whatever implement that you have on the back, it's so much easier just to push a lever instead of having to, again, with this model, you have to put it in park, put it in neutral, get off, then you got to come and work your top link. I think in the video where I showed you where I cut my yard with the flail mower, you saw me where I had to do the turnbuckle on the side link here just to be able to make sure that the flail mower was level. And so that's my probably next purchase, is to get a hydraulic side link here, and it makes it really nice because I already have a second remote on the back that I'll be able to just plug into that. And so when I do need to change the angle right to left, then I can easily just do it with a lever. So that's another reason why I liked getting the Kioti, because it had the 2 rear remotes already with the tractor when I bought it, and that wasn't an add-on accessory or anything like that. It's just part of the tractor, and I will say I've been very happy with that. So if you're in the market for a tractor, definitely check out the Kiotis. Again, I wasn't, you know, looking at buying a Kioti when, you know, I was looking to upgrade and get a bigger tractor. Like I said before, you know, I went back to John Deere to, you know, because I really liked that 1025R that I had, and I was thinking, well, you know, I'll just upgrade, you know, to the next level of a John Deere, and went and looked, and of course the price was a little steep, and then actually went to Kubota, because it's kind of like right down the road from the John Deere dealership that I dealt with, and it basically came with the same features as a John Deere did. I can't remember what model it was that I was looking at. It might have been like the 3901, 3902, something like that. I can't remember. Don't mark that down, you know, what Kioti or Kubota tractor I looked at. I can't really remember. But also, when you're looking for a tractor, and the thing that really also made my decision pretty easy was not just the price on this tractor that I got it for, not just the features that came with this tractor was the reason that I bought it. It was the person who I dealt with at the dealership. It's a family-owned dealership. It's in Lexington, North Carolina, And when I went there, and it just felt right. There was like already a really good customer seller relationship that it was just natural, you know. And that's something that kind of put a sour taste in my mouth when I went to the Kubota dealership, and it's the closest one to where I live. The Kubota dealership from where I live is maybe 15 minutes. The Kioti dealership from where I live is maybe 35 minutes. But to me, just the relationship that I had with the person who, you know, that owns the Kioti. So of course he's got more money in the game because it's his business. He wants to make sure that his business is run properly and run right. And whereas the person I was dealing with at the Kubota dealership, he's just one of the employees. So so I think that's another thing you want to really take into consideration when you look to purchase a product, is not just buying the tractor, but afterwards. There was the PTO shield that I have that's on the back that covers the PTO shaft. Well, I bent that somehow, and when I went to do my 100-hour fluid change and filter changes and all that kind of stuff, well, I just went up to the Kioti dealership and got that stuff to do all that. And then I was like, hey, I said, can you order me a PTO shield? And he just kind of looked at me, and I told him, I was like, I was probably just doing something stupid. And I said I wasn't paying attention or whatever, but I said, somehow I bent the shield. And so he's like, yeah, he says, I can't guarantee when I'll get it here. He says, but I'll put it in an order. He says, usually for something, you know, that's kind of small. He says, you know, they're not going to put a rush shipping on it sometimes, but he says, you know, we'll get it here. And of course I'm like, well, it's not a big deal to me. You know, the tractor is still operational and everything, but again, I have my OCD, and I just like to keep my equipment and everything else looking nice. And I wanted to just replace it. And it wasn't that expensive. I think it was less than $80 just to replace that shield. So, but I think it took maybe 3 weeks or something like that to get in, which I told him, I said, I'm in no rush to get it. I mean, I think he could have gotten it within 2 or 3 days, but then I would have had to pay like extra shipping or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it was, but he said, you know, if I order in bulk of all different parts that I need for my shop here, then he says, you know, they just throw that on the pallet, and you know, there's no extra fee. So that is something that, you know, you want to make sure that you have when you go and buy your tractor, is a good relationship with the dealership. And I just felt really good when I went to his dealership and started talking to him, and it just felt like, you know, eventually it was like just talking to one of my buddies. And and every so once in a while I'll still call him. There was something else that happened, nothing significant or anything like that. I think it was just me not knowing something, and I just called him up. I'm like, hey, I said, this is Travis, you know, can I pick your brain a little bit? And so I can't remember exactly what it was now. It wasn't, like I said, it wasn't anything significant. It was just something that I just couldn't find information about. So I called him and talked to him for 10-15 minutes and answered all my questions, and you know, it was good to go. So I'd say try to really form a good relationship with the dealer. And anybody knows that whether you're buying a tractor, you're buying a car, even just going to, you know, a store to buy anything, it's all about that good customer service too. And you know, at least with me, if I don't get good customer service, more than likely I'm not going to come back. You know, I just don't think that, you know, just because I bought something from you doesn't mean you don't need to continue to try to have that really good relationship with me, because it's going to bring me right back and continue to buy stuff from you. More than likely, when I go to next year, when I'm looking at buying a zero turn, I'll probably just go right, because he sells those too. So I'll probably go right back up there and buy a zero turn from him, because I know that I'm going to get good customer service, and I'm not going to have to deal with somebody that, yeah, he's just an employee and he doesn't, you know, he doesn't have that enthusiasm or, you know, cares about you as the customer. So that's something I highly suggest to people, to take that in consideration. Some people look at, you know, going to that Kubota dealership, and a lot of it is it's convenient. You know, it might be 10, 15 minutes from their house. Whereas me, you know, I got to drive 30, 35 minutes. But it's worth it to me to drive that 35 minutes as compared to 15 minutes. Or if I want to go to John Deere dealership, it's 20 minutes. So those two tractor dealerships are closer than the one where I got my Kioti from. But I just like the service and the people that run that place. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this review on the Kioti tractor. I've been very pleased and happy with it. I don't regret buying the tractor at all. You know, like I said, I pointed out a few things that I would like to see them change. But overall, would I buy this tractor again? Absolutely. Again, I don't have any qualms or regrets or anything like that with this tractor. I felt it was a great purchase, and I don't regret it at all. So hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I'm hoping to do some more here in the future. Like I said, spring is here. There's always a lot of projects to be going. I wish I'd have gotten a lot more done before it starts to warm up, you know, or get hot, as I would say. And but again, the good thing, North Carolina, it lasts 3 months, and we're in the fall, not too far away from deer season, which, you know, that's really one of the times of the year that I really like, is during that time. And so hopefully pretty soon I'll start focusing on, you know, like I said, I got more trees to cut, and there's the food plot over that I started last year. I've gone over there with the flail mower, mowed everything down. You know, last year's food plot, put it all, cut it down to the ground, and so I'm gonna start working on that again. And again, this tractor, you know, working over on that property, I did not have any issues at all. And, you know, as you saw in those videos when I was doing the food plot, you know, pulling the plow, I think I had the stump bucket on the front, you know, taking out some stumps. And again, you know, I would like to do some videos with using that stump bucket, but I'm still learning how to use that thing. You know, what is the best techniques to get, you know, stumps out. So a lot of these guys that been doing it for, you know, quite a while, they just make it look pretty easy. Well, first time I try to get, you know, a decent sized stump out, I'm like, how they, you know, what are they doing different than I'm doing? Well, it's all about technique and everything. So again, I'm wanting to put out more videos, hopefully in the near future, and hopefully also do just a little bit of a talk about some of the implements. I think I said earlier, I'm going to probably go around, show you all the implements that I have gotten over the last year. But this is something that I'm actually pretty happy about. let me show you a before picture, and then this is the after. So this actually belonged to one of my neighbors, and I saw it back there. He doesn't own a big tractor anymore, and I happened to see this back there. So I called him. I was like, hey, I said, I see you have a 3-point scrape blade back there, and I said, would you be interested in selling that? And so he's like, yeah. He says, I'm never going to use it again. So he sold this to me for 150 bucks. So I could not believe I was able to get a scrape blade for $150. Now I probably have a total of $225, $250 in it. That's including buying it, and buying some primer and the paint. I've replaced the pins here, and I replaced all the bolts down across here to that holds the blade on, because I took them all off, but they were still really rusty, so I just went ahead and replaced them all. But for initial $150 to buy this, and then I put, you know, maybe 75 or 100 bucks also into it to make it almost basically look like it's brand new. So again, you know, sometimes don't look at something and say, oh yeah, that's a piece of crap, I just want to go buy something new, and you know, anything like that. But you know, look at what you might be able to do with it. Now I had to put a lot of elbow grease in it. You know, I took my angle grinder and took all the surface rust that was on it, got it down to pretty much just bare metal, and then, like I said, I put 2 coats of primer, and I think I put 2 to 3 coats of paint on this, and I think it turned out great.